Welcome to Zoom In, Zoom Out, your global look at news from Taiwan. I'm Tiffany Wong. Hong Kong's High Court has sentenced 45 pro-democracy activists to up to 10 years of jail time for holding an unofficial primary election for the city council. The advocates were collectively known as the Hong Kong 47, and the group was arrested in 2021 and charged with conspiracy to commit subversion under China's national security law, the same law that prompted mass protests in Hong Kong in 2019. Internationally, the U.S. Department of State has described these charges as politically motivated. Today, to dive deeper into the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong, we're joined by Michael Mo, a former pro-democracy counselor in Hong Kong. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's first zoom in on the news. Tell us more about the sentencing. Who were the Hong Kong 47 and what did they do?
So the Hong Kong 47 case is about around 53 being arrested in early 2021 for their involvement, both organizing and running for the pro-democracy unofficial primary held in July 2020, approximately 2 weeks right after the national security law of Hong Kong has been imposed to the city by Beijing. So among the 53, the 47 of them have later been charged by the Hong Kong authorities, and among them, only 2 of them found acquitted. So 45 of them are convicted. I know pretty much over half of them, they have been involved in the pro-democracy movement for so long, some pretty much for decades, as early as in the 1980s or 1990s, before Hong Kong has been handed to China. So I would say they are all dedicated people to try to make Hong Kong a better place. But it is sad to see that Beijing shows its iron fists that would like to silence pretty much everybody who would like to speak truth now.
What's your reaction to hearing the sentencing? I mean, obviously we knew it's coming for a long time, but for Hong Kongers and for you being so involved in the pro-democracy movement, what did that feel like?
I think because of the case have been dragged for so long that a length of the sentences itself is rather not so striking to me rationally. Emotionally, I just imagine it might be a relief for some of the people who I know. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and they could meet their families and friends very soon, and they just be able to continue to live their lives. Whether they would be staying in Hong Kong to fight, or they just come out to the free world and to continue their campaigns and activism, we will see. But I'm slightly relieved to see those sentences is not as severe as those families and friends have predicted. So yes, it's a quite paradoxical situation, isn't it? But it is what it is, and I just simply hope that when they could set foot to freedom, they could just enjoy their lives and hope to see that one day soon.
Could we go back to the elections, the unofficial primaries? Were they really unofficial? What was their goal there?
So according to the laws of Hong Kong, there is no recognized primary election of any kind. So that's why it is an unofficial one that is held among the pro-democracy camp. So before the enactment of the national security law of Hong Kong, these kind of activities were practiced by the pro-democracy camp pretty much for multiple times to come up with people that would stand for by-elections. And then the Hong Kong authorities didn't go after the organizers or the candidates of these unofficial primaries. Soon after the NSL came into force, it is the Hong Kong authorities, one of the ministers, warned that such an unofficial primary calling for the 5 major demands of the Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement were deemed illegal under the such law. And that's what they did. The Hong Kong authorities simply arrest 53 of them half a year after the unofficial primary has been held.
And during these national security trials, they handpick national security judges. Is this system fair?
We will never know the principles of how these judges has been handpicked. We presume that these judges might feature allegiance to Beijing. And there's nothing called fairness in a so one-sided interpretation of the national security law itself. Not to mention it is bypassed the Hong Kong legislature to be imposed into Hong Kong's law through the Annex 3 of the Hong Kong Basic Law, which is the mini constitution of Hong Kong. And then another thing about the new article, national security law that's been in effect earlier this year. So it is being passed by the legislature, the legislature of Hong Kong. But at that time, it is a patriots-only legislature, which means there is no pro-democracy candidates and win any of the seats. Even we have the candidates have been barred from running, not to mention they failed to get the nominations. So that's why the law has been passed so swiftly and without pretty much a very rigorous vetting, and not to mention the shamed consultation.
Now let's zoom out to the bigger picture. Besides this case, the Hong Kong 47, there are other national security trials going on, including the trial of Jimmy Lai. What do you make of the state of democracy movements in Hong Kong now?
So most of the civil society groups and the political parties which belong or support the pro-democracy movement are now, as I said, being forced to disband. So those who remained there facing pretty much charges or everyday harassments by the Hong Kong authorities. Even like a street canvassing on the busy streets of Hong Kong, holding a banner or a sign would be deemed so-called illegal by the police. I think that the atmosphere is so dire in Hong Kong right now. Any small form of resistance face a significant backlash. For instance, some pro-democracy activists belongs to the elite of Pseudo Democrats have just been arrested for sedition earlier this week, simply because of his or her posts on social media. I think some of the political parties and the civil society groups are trying to stay as it is, or at least having a name there to keep themselves alive or keep their flames alive. But after the conclusion of this Hong Kong 47 case, I think they might reevaluate their existence itself, because it is quite meaningless to exist as a political party if you are pretty much being barred from running. For the civil society groups, most of them have gone, those which remained in the city, went pretty much lay low or doing things quite quietly behind the scene, or sometimes doing anonymously. So this is how those in the city try to deal with so-called new normal.
So we saw today that also the Hong Kong Money Authority held a summit at the very same time as the Hong Kong 47 were being sentenced. Do you think these national security trials impact ordinary citizens in Hong Kong?
For the summit itself, it is quite like a show that is organized by the Hong Kong authorities to show that business as usual. But no business is usual in Hong Kong for now. After national security law being imposed, as well as the situation of COVID containment, the economy of Hong Kong is so dire. And the economy is so bad, so there are all kinds of gimmicks or the slogan type campaigns that has run by the Hong Kong authorities in the past few years to try to save their faces, or to at least to project an image that Hong Kong is still a dynamic, open, financial city. But we all know it is not the case. Judging from all the data, economic data, populations, and all the competitiveness index, which pretty much it speaks for itself, it is not the case. So nothing is normal now in Hong Kong. But then I think for the people who remained in Hong Kong, they just have to live with the new situation and to deal with it.
And how do you think the world should be interpreting Beijing's actions in Hong Kong?
The free world has already got the judgment on Beijing's action, and pretty much it's stifling Hong Kong's freedom. But sadly, the world has not got enough tools to deal with it, not to mention the courage to speak up even further for Hong Kong. We see that the president-elect Donald Trump talk about his effort to try to get Jimmy Lai released. Also, we have seen very poor Hong Kong Senator Marco Rubio has become the future Secretary of State. But how would they deal with Hong Kong in the context of China-US rivalry? It's still yet to be seen. And we've also seen that the free world might prioritize their economic interest over freedom, democracy, and human rights. For instance, we see Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, didn't speak loud enough for the situation in Hong Kong, which from his works, Hong Kong is a shared interest between the UK and China. But judging from what is happening in the UK's parliament, the current Labour government is less willing to speak up for the situation in Hong Kong or the people of Hong Kong as of now.
What do you think democracy campaigners in Hong Kong need most from the outside world? How can the outside world help?
I think for now, those Hong Kong for democracy activists living abroad, or whether it's willingly or unwillingly, should do more to speak to the governments or politicians where they're at, and to give the pressure to those governments or the authorities to reprioritize human rights and freedom when they're engaging with both Hong Kong and China. That is something need to be re-strategized or better strategized. So we need a grand strategy from the outside world to come together to see what ways, what objectives, what the priorities that we could be achieved to support, or at least to put a stop button on its deteriorating situation in Hong Kong.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was really great to hear your insights today.
Thank you, Tiffany.
This has been Zoom in, Zoom out. For more stories from TaiwanPlus News, follow us on social media. Thank you and see you next time.
Start your weekend with a cup of coffee and a moment to reflect on what happened this week.
Hello and welcome.
We've got you covered, from defense and politics to high tech and the arts.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
You make the coffee,
We make the news.
Here's what happened on TaiwanPlus.